Hey everyone, welcome to the Stand Up and Vote Trivia Show, a trivia game show about voting hosted by Zumiez and Voto Latino. Today we'll show you all why your voice and your vote matters and how you can use them to impact the issues you care about. I'm Camille from Voto Latino, coming to you live from Texas.
And I'm Danny, also from Voto Latino, coming to you from Washington, D.C. We're excited to be hosting today and stoked to be partnering with Zumiez this year to help you all inspire and activate your community to stand up and vote for the issues that matter to you.
We have several special guest contestants who will be joining us to compete to see who knows the most about our right to vote. And for every question our contestants answer correctly, you all will win Zumiez stash points. Each contestant will have 2 lifelines to ask you all for help if they run into trouble. Hit the chat to help out when the time comes.
After the trivia show, we'll be answering your questions about voting, so drop your questions in the chat. We'll answer as many as we have time for. If you're ready, let's jump in and welcome our contestants. Our first contestant is Fransisco Reyes Jr., founder and artist behind Never Made. Welcome, Fransisco. Thanks for joining us.
How's it going, guys? Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure.
Where are you coming to us from?
Los Angeles.
Awesome. Our second contestant is Vicky DiMassa from Zumiez. Thank you so much for joining us, Vicky.
Hey everyone, glad to be here.
Where are you joining us from?
I'm out here representing H-Town, aka Houston, Texas.
Nice. All right, so before we get going, I have a question for you both. Vicky, if you'd like to answer it first, that'd be great. Why is voting important to you at both the local and national level?
So first of all, voting in general to me is about having a voice, and everyone's voice is important. And voting is your ability to put that voice out into the world. And, you know, for anyone out there right now watching, I'm sure there might be 1 or 2 of you that might feel like, hey, your vote might not matter. And I encourage you to really, I would encourage you to go look in the mirror and say, I'm important. My voice is important. It's important for me to put my voice out there. So voting is crucial to do that. And on the community level, I want to represent people. I want to push for people that represent my views. That's what you can do on the community level. And then presidentially, this presidential election coming up, I want more. I want more from our leadership when it comes to equality, immigration, education, the environment. So that's why it's important to me.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. I'm really excited to, speak with you more throughout this quiz show. What about you, Fransisco?
It's important for me because, like Victoria said, on the local level, you're voting for people that actually represent you and what you need and what's important to you. So, they're going to be your reps out in Washington, D.C. So if you don't vote on a local level, you're letting somebody else speak up for you. And there's a lot of people that are just like, oh, my vote doesn't count or whatever, but it does, especially on a local level. That's when I think it counts the most. So if you don't vote, then it's like you have no room to complain about what's going on because you're not using your voice, this awesome privilege that we have. And on the presidential level, I mean, I agree with everything Victoria said. I think we're on the same page with all these policies that it's backwards right now, and things need to really move forward. Like I thought with Obama that we took a couple of steps forward, and with President Trump, I think we just took too many steps back, and he's dismantling too many important infrastructures that it sucks to see. So voting for these things is very important, and you guys should care about these sort of things because our children's children are going to have to deal with all this damage that's being done to our country and the environment.
Totally. this show, we hope to answer some questions you all may have around voting. But, of course, we're here to remind you and encourage you to register to vote. We'll go ahead and get started with the quiz show. So we're going to alternate in between the two of you to ask questions. Francisco, we'll go with you for the first question, Vicky the second, and so on. I also want to emphasize, don't forget, you both have 2 chances to use a lifeline to ask the audience for help. To our audience, remember, for every question our contestants answer correctly, we'll drop a code in the chat that you can redeem for Zumiez Stash points. All right, Francisco, question 1. What percentage of voters do you think turned out for the 2016 presidential election? Here are your 4 options. A, 43.2%, B, 54.8%, C, 98.9%, or D, 61.4%. I'm happy to repeat those numbers if needed.
No, I think I'm gonna go with was B the 50 and A was 40? Something like that. I'm gonna go with A, just based on who won the election. I hope that's right, and some of you guys get some points.
So actually, it is not right. So sorry about that. The answer that was correct was D, 61.4%. Awesome. We'll kick it over to Vicky. Danny, would you like to read off the question for her?
Sure. Vicky, what date is the presidential election for the United States in 2020? Is it A, November 2nd, B, November 3rd, C, November 4th, or D, November 5th?
That's a big B.
B is the right answer. November 3rd, 2020 is the general election.
It's the same day every year, you guys, so remember that. Should be a national holiday also. Like, people should have that day off.
It should be a national holiday, you're right.
But yeah, November 3rd, everyone write it down, remember it. Let's get it done. Let's get out on November 3rd. All right, next question for you, Francisco. So this is a true or false. If you are in line when the polls close, they must let you vote. Is that true or false?
If you're in line, and it closes and you're still in line,
yeah.
Yes, you should
true,
be able
that is correct.
Yeah.
So we're seeing during COVID, even a lot of in-person elections are happening in Georgia and Wisconsin. We're seeing people waiting in line, waiting diligently to get to the polls and vote. So this is a really important thing for you all to know and learn and even share on social during election days. If you are in line, stay in line. You have the right to vote. You have the right to cast your ballot.
And if you're rejected, there's hotlines for you to call for you to report that. So.
Yeah, definitely.
Good to know.
Okay, Vicky, can anyone else who is not you find out who you voted for? True or false? Or yes or no?
I am going to go with false. I do know that it's public record to look up your party affiliation and your voting history in some states, but I don't believe anyone can see who exactly you voted for. That's
correct and extra correct. There are ways for people to see if you voted and how you were registered, but no one can see what was on your ballot after you have voted. It is a secret ballot for a reason. Well done.
Sweet. All right. The next question is kind of difficult. I truthfully didn't know the answer to it until super recently. Definitely hyping this up. So here's the question. It's a yes or no answer. So if you're a student, can you use your school's address for your voter registration?
And this question's for me or for Victoria?
It is for you, yes.
You know what? I don't think so, because it's more residential than where you go to school. So I'm gonna say, what was the question again?
Yeah, so if you're a student, can you use your school's address?
No, I
So if
don't
you're
think
living in
so.
a dorm, on campus,
Oh, college.
yeah, that's what I meant. So sorry. So
Oh,
like
yeah.
in your dorm, off-campus housing, whatever it may be.
I would say no. I'm pretty sure you'd probably have to submit an absentee ballot.
So, you know, the question is marked as wrong. It actually is a yes, but I'm going to hold off on saying it's completely wrong because you can request an absentee ballot if you do want to vote in the county that your parents or your family
Yeah,
or where you
exactly.
work or school. Um, you can count in that county, but as your residents, granted probably in your new county where you go to school, you are able to cast a ballot in that county. Be sure that your voter registration, though, matches whichever county you're voting for, if that makes sense. For example, I went to school outside of Austin from El Paso, Texas. I registered to vote in Williamson County just because I wanted to really make an impact in local politics where I
Mhm.
went to school. But that decision is up to you all. Know that you have an option and know that whatever you do, just be sure that your registration is up to date for your current address. If you're not sure where your registration lies, the best course of action is just to re-register to vote.
Mhm.
There's no harm in doing that.
So the answer is both right and wrong. It's like
I will have to consult the broader team. Danny, what do you think about that? I
sounds like
will,
it.
Answer to the question was wrong. The
yeah.
context around it was right. So
Yeah.
I'm willing to give that half credit.
Half credit. Is there such thing as half credit?
Yeah, we just made it up.
Yeah,
It's happening.
let's do it.
All right, so let's check in. Neither of you have used your lifelines, so you both have two left. The questions from here on out may be a little harder. Maybe you'll have to turn to the audience for some help. Victoria, when voting, are you required to vote for everything on the ballot?
No.
Correct.
I'm gonna say no. Yes, cool.
Yeah, you do not have to fill in every single thing on the ballot. Some people believe that if you don't, or if you skip some stuff on the ballot, the whole thing gets thrown out. That is not true. If you only want to vote for one thing and skip the rest, that's totally your choice.
But I don't. I've been a. I'm guilty of doing that in the past when I was younger. But now, the advice I give to like say younger voters, maybe even first time voters, is you get a cheat sheet. You get a little booklet, and I always go through that a couple weeks before election day, and I really study everything, and then you bubble it in, and as soon as you get there, you're just copying your little sample ballot. So I always recommend people to do that. It's kind of tedious because it's sometimes it's like there's like 12 candidates on a on a thing, but if you really want to like educate yourself, there you go to their website and it tells you their politics and what they're affiliated with, and yeah, that's just something that uh, I think you should take into consideration when filling out your vote, especially when it's important stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
that's
really
a great
cool.
idea.
Just because you can skip stuff on the ballot doesn't mean you should.
Exactly.
And get as educated and informed about all the issues and candidates on the ballot so you can make the best decision for you and your community. That's a
Hmm.
great point.
And
Awesome.
then if you have friends that think like you're just like, and they don't know, just be like, here, take mine and just copy it. Like I've done that before where some of my friends we're on the same page politically, and I'm just like, yo, I don't really know about this person. They're just like, oh yeah, I researched it. Like you got to vote for that person.
Crowdsource your
Yeah, for
election.
sure.
True. All right, next question for you, Francisco. This is a yes or no question. So, if you're out of the country on election day, do you have to forfeit your right to vote?
No, you
That
are
is,
you legally have the right to submit an absentee ballot.
that's correct. Awesome. And you can figure out, it's a pretty easy process, how to request your absentee ballot through your Secretary of State's website.
Mhm.
I believe also if you head to zumiez.com/standup, there will be information on how you can do that within your own state.
Cool. Let's see, where are we? Vicky, this one's a little tricky. What two states allow people to vote while in prison, or also known as unrestricted voting? A, Virginia and Massachusetts. B, Virginia and Maine. C, Maine and Vermont. Or D, Vermont and Massachusetts.
I'm going to go with letter C, Vermont and Maine.
That is correct. Only two states in the country that allow incarcerated individuals to vote.
Why is that? Do you guys know?
It is a long and complicated answer,
Yeah.
but there's a lot of racism involved in it, in the history of it, and there are a lot of people working currently to change that across the country.
Good.
But everyone should go look up the history of voter disenfranchisement for people in prison. It is a long and terrible story.
All right, next question over to you, Francisco. Another yes, no situation. Here's the question. Do you need to re-register to vote if you've moved recently?
Oh, dang. I'm going to use a lifeline. Can I make a call?
Yeah, please go ahead.
I got a special friend that's gonna help me out on here. You guys might know him. His name's Shepard Ferry.
Oh.
It's a good lifeline.
Yeah. What up, Shep? I'm on a game show right now called Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, and I'm using you as a lifeline. So the question, what was the question?
So do you need to re-register to vote if you've moved recently?
Do you need to re-register to vote if you just recently moved? Shep?
You know, yeah, I'm listening. I think that you can just do, you can just have it transferred. I don't think you need to completely re-register. Because we've done that. We've moved, and I know that, I think Amanda just did it online. I don't think you need to, some of the purging of people saying that it's because they moved and the addresses don't match, that should be something that they wouldn't have to re-register to do, that they would just have to update their existing registration. But I guess that depends state to state, because I don't know all the details from state to state.
Yeah, same. So is that right, guys?
What is the final answer?
What is your final answer, Shepard?
You should not need to re-register because you've moved. You should be able to update your existing registration.
All right, so actually, this is a toss-up. I want to say that answer is incorrect. The correct answer is that you should re-register to vote, just because procedures are different in all 50 states. We have super voting-friendly states. We have states that aren't as friendly. I think the best course of action that we recommend to folks is to just re-register to vote using the address that you'll be voting from for the election. But registering to vote is a super easy, quick, simple process. We've said it before, say it again right now. You can head to zumiez.com/standup and register to vote using the form online. Should take about 2 minutes or so. But yeah, unfortunately, that answer right now will have
you did me dirty.
Well,
nah, I didn't. I wasn't sure either.
I would say that if the question was, do you need to or should you make sure one way or the other, my answer definitely would be make sure. But,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that knowing what the situation is in your state is really important. And yeah, I mean, don't take anything for granted, I guess, is always good advice.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks, Shep. Do you want to say anything to these young voters out there?
Yeah, know what you're talking about, unlike I did, and know what you're doing, because democracy matters, and it really only works if people participate. So get out there. It's your world to shape. So take the power you've got and use it.
Awesome. Thanks, Shep. Appreciate that, dude.
Bye, guys.
All right, later. So that was cool, right?
That was dope.
Yeah.
Really, every day you can tell a Shepherd Fairy that he answered a question wrong.
Right.
But you know, there's something right now.
But what he said is true. Is like whether you should or shouldn't is probably the right question.
Well, you're actually required to register to vote if you move to a different locality, whether that's in the same state or a different state. You're required to register to vote in your location of residence within 30 days of moving. So there's that. All right, question 10 for Vicky. Do we only use primaries for presidential elections?
Oh no. Primaries are used for senators, governors, House of Representatives, and local elections too. Local primaries for like your sheriff, district attorney, even your like railroad commissioner. Lots of different primaries.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. It goes back to the point Francisco made earlier. Vote all the way down the ballot. Inform yourself about all the issues and candidates on your ballot, because not only are you going to be voting for a president, you're also voting for all the people Vicky just listed, all the way down to your local politicians who will shape a lot of the policies that affect you in your daily life, maybe even more so than your president or senator will. So that was a perfect answer. And with that, we've come to the end of our questions. Thank you both to Francisco and Vicky for playing. We need a second as we tally up the scores and see who won. But thank you to all of you watching. If you have questions, please drop them in the chat. We will get to as many as we can. Yeah, remember to go to zumiez.com/standup. Hey everyone, welcome back to the first ever Zumiez Stand Up and Vote Trivia Show. Want to give a huge congratulations to our first winner ever, Vicky. Got 5 right. Francisco, next time, choose your friends better. Thank you to everyone in our audience for your help and for watching. We're going to get to some questions now.
Yeah, so first we have a few questions from the Zumiez community that we'll just use this space to talk about, hopefully answer for y'all. Here's the first one. Does my vote matter if the state I live in has different political views than what I personally believe? What do you all think or say to that question?
I'll let Victoria go first. Because I live in California, so it's just like, I think you live in like a battleground state, which is, or more of a red state. I live in a really kind of liberal state.
Yeah, can you repeat the question one more time?
Yeah, for sure. So does my vote matter if the state I live in has like different political views, people who are in power for a different political party than I typically align with? Should I vote?
Yes, all day. Like I said earlier at the beginning of all this, your voice matters, your opinion matters, and you want to get that out there in the world. And even if they don't necessarily align right now, you could influence other people. And
yeah, for sure.
Yes.
Because like generations are gonna get younger, and you know, and the generations are getting more progressive, and the kids are going to be more progressive. So eventually, like if you start early, you're doing the groundwork for future generations.
Absolutely.
For sure. Just want to echo everything you all said. Everyone's voice matters, especially if you live in a battleground state. Be sure that you do your part, read up on your candidates, make your position known, vote for values that you hold, or maybe for the issues that interest you, and encourage your friends and family to do the same.
Okay, we have a question from Peripheral Vision. Is it true if you register to vote, you're automatically enrolled for jury duty?
Yes, I think that's true. I think you're automatically put in that pool.
Yes.
I have no idea.
When you register to vote, you are added to the pool of potential jurors, but that should not be a hindrance on you registering to vote, because if you also have a state ID like a driver's license, you are also entered into that same pool. So most likely you're already in it. Registering to vote will not increase your chances of getting called for a jury.
Yeah, you're going to get called up either way, whether you like it or not.
Yeah. So register to vote.
Awesome. Next question. How do I register to vote in a different state than I am in right now?
Is this person a resident of that other state?
You know, honestly, I'm a bit unclear of that. I think, you know, gearing up to the November 3rd election, the best practice is wherever, you know, as we learned just now, wherever you live, wherever you will like stake residence on November 3rd, that is where you should be registered to vote.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you're not registered to vote in the state that you're currently in, and you're registered to vote in a different state, you have a right to request an absentee ballot to vote in the correct state. But if you're in a different state than you're registered in, don't just walk up to the polls and vote in the wrong state. That's definitely a crime. Our next question from the Durs Kid 333. How do I know if my state has mail-in voting? Who's got an answer?
I think they all do. Like, I think it's automatic, right?
No. So not every state has mail-in voting.
No
This
wonder I lost.
This is something that we at Voto Latino are working on, especially with COVID going on.
Yeah, totally.
We are trying to make it so that everyone can choose to vote by mail if they want to. Some people prefer to vote in person, and so we're also fighting for in-person voting protection so people don't have to choose between voting and potentially exposing themselves to COVID. But right now, a bunch of states have it to where they either don't have mail-in voting or they require an excuse in order to request a mail-in ballot. So Vicky, Texas has determined that fear of contracting COVID is not a valid excuse to getting a mail-in ballot. So contact your local officials and tell them that you think that's dumb. But no, not every state has mail-in voting. It's really important to know if your state does. So you should go to your Secretary of State's website. It'll usually be the name of your state.gov, but Google is your best friend. And they will tell you plainly if they have mail-in voting.
Awesome.
Awesome. Our next question is from Mfro82. If you voted for a certain party in the primary for the last presidential election, do you absolutely have to vote for that same party in the next primary election?
Victoria answered the last one. Do you want to do this one or?
Yeah, I would say you don't have to vote for the same party now. You can vote whatever you want each time.
I think you have to re-register every time.
It depends on the state that you live in. So some states have open primaries and some states have closed primaries. An open primary means that no matter what party you're registered with, you can vote for in whichever party's primary that you want. A closed state primary is the opposite. Whatever party you're registered with, you have to vote in that party's primary. You can't vote in the other party's primary. So yeah, like Fransisco said, if you want to switch and you want to vote in a different party's primary and you lived in a closed primary state, you have to re-register. If you're happy with the party that you voted for and you wanted to vote for them again in their next primary coming up, you don't have to do anything. So again, go to your Secretary of State's website, look up if your state has open or closed primaries, and make your determination there.
And if you do have to re-register to vote, head again to zumiez.com/standup. That process is super quick, easy. Let's get it done.
So from Inksy, I think I'm pronouncing that. Why should you vote if you don't like any of the people you're voting for? So the more people that participate in our elections, the greater power we have as a collective country in our voting. If you don't like either of the options, like we mentioned earlier in the program, you don't have to vote for someone on a ballot. It's recommended that you do. And it's really recommended that you find the person that aligns closest with your values. It's rare that you're going to find a candidate that is 100% in line with you. So I would recommend doing a bunch of research on all the candidates going on in your city, county, state, and the ones running for president, and figure out who is closest to you, even if you don't like both of them or either of them, even if you don't necessarily agree on everything they've done. It really only hurts you to sit out, and you're giving up some of your power if you don't vote or if you skip out on parts of the ballot. So like we mentioned earlier, vote all the way down the ballot, inform yourself as much as possible, and you're never going to find a perfect candidate, so pick the one that's closest to you. Anyone else has anything to add?
No, I think you hit that pretty well.
Great, thank you. I realize I kind of took on that whole thing.
No, that was perfect.
Yeah, it was.
Okay, from Playboy Dreams. If candidates win the popular vote, how come they don't always get to become president? Does that make popular voting kind of pointless?
Who wants to take that one? It's kind of a rough. It's kind of controversial, I think, because the electoral college is usually what dictates, and the popular vote. I think the popular vote should be what dictates what president gets, because there's a lot of like gerrymandering going on and all this crazy stuff in states that people are redrawing like district lines and stuff and trying to make sure like they get enough delegates in that state to push that state to either red or blue. But my personal opinion is the popular vote should be the vote that counts, which I think there needs to be reform on that also. But unfortunately, it's not that way.
Yeah, I agree with you. It should be the popular vote. At the moment, it is not. For presidential elections, we do have this institution called the Electoral College, which is really old and was created for reasons that don't really make sense anymore. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't mean your vote is pointless, because the popular vote is still the largest dictator of who will then win the Electoral College. So the popular vote doesn't guarantee that a candidate will win, but it does majorly inform who the winning candidate will be. In the last 5 presidential elections, 2 have gone to the candidate that did not win the popular vote and won the Electoral College, which is really just a case for more people turning out to vote so that our elections can be more representative of the popular vote in general.
All right, a next question from Dogman Jr. and some other folks. Are you able to vote online?
No, unfortunately. I've seen a meme the other day. It's like, you telling me that I could get a paycheck, take a photo, and upload it to my bank account, and it's there and it's fine, but I can't, vote over the internet. I think I'm a little bit more old school, where I'd rather fill out a ballot because I think there's less of a chance of things to get hacked and stuff. like by Russia per se. Uh, but um, but yeah, I don't. It's online voting is not an option.
Yeah, once again, you should check with your Secretary of State because it is possible in some states to register to vote online.
Mhm.
Currently, no state has online voting. But registering to vote online is super easy. Camille, can you remind us where you can do that?
Of course, this has been my favorite tagline of the night. Head to zumiez.com/standup to register to vote online. If you're already registered, that's no big deal. Text a friend or family member that link. Let them know that they can register using that link. I do want to throw out there, though, as a resident of the great state of Texas, you cannot complete your voter registration all online. So what you can do, though, is use that link on the Zumiez website. And you'll be emailed out instructions once you complete the online form to print, sign, and mail the form that you filled out online to your elections office locally. It's a super easy process. But yeah, again, head to zumiez.com/standup to register online.
I wish online voting was a thing, though, for sure. I think it would eliminate some of the voter oppression that we see in a lot of states. Although I do understand like the technical side of things, like could it get hacked? But I think if we can have all of our internet or all of our online banking and things like that online, I think there's a way that we could probably do it.
Yeah.
If they really want to or not.
So our next question from the audience, do I have to vote at a specific location or can I go anywhere in my state?
And you can go anywhere in your state, right?
Ooh.
Um,
Vicky?
I think that you would have to go onto your county's website. At least that's what I had to do. Go onto my county's website and see which locations that I could go to that were available. That's what I did.
Yeah, so outside of COVID, normally you have a very specific polling location that you have to go to. And when you register to vote and you receive your voter registration card in the mail, it'll tell you the address of where you're going to go to vote. Usually it's a school or a church or what have you. Now with COVID and because of the limited amount of resources or whatever everyone's dealing with, a lot of states have made it so that you can go to any polling location you want. But again, that's something to check with your state's Secretary of State website.
I guess that's what I was basing my answer on because that's what I did for the primaries.
Yeah. So it's a little different right now because of COVID. In normal times, yes, please go to your designated polling location. And then this one kind of follows up with that. Will I need ID to vote? What do you guys think?
Yes, I would say yes.
Camille?
It depends in every state.
Yeah. So
I know that's but here in Texas, it's required that you have an ID, and the list of verified IDs that you can use to vote, kind of crazy. You can vote, of course, with a state-issued ID, driver's license. You can actually register to vote with a gun license, but you can't vote with a student ID. So recommend, again, head to your Secretary of State's website to learn if you need to vote with an ID in your state and what that ID can look like.
Yeah, there are currently 6 states that absolutely require an ID to vote. There are a couple that they request it. And in DC, where I live, it's not required, but they say that if you show your ID, they can look you up in the system quicker. So I show them my ID, but you don't have to. Unless you live in one of the 6 states, please do your research. Camille, you can ask the next question.
All right. I believe there's a question that's asking if COVID can affect voting. And I think we touched on it a little bit, but I think it's really important to talk about the options we have to vote, especially right now during the pandemic.
Yeah, so again, it depends on your state. That should be one of the main takeaways from this discussion. But as of right now, only a few states across the country allow you to vote with a mail-in ballot. So if you live in a state that does have that, that's great. You don't have to go anywhere in person. You can just mail in your ballot. If you live in a state that does not have mail-in voting or that requires an excuse to request a mail-in ballot, as you move through that system, make sure that you can also lobby and request from your local officials that they change that policy. You are the person they are representing. If you don't like something that they're doing, have them change it, and let them know that you are a voter, that what they're doing is something that you don't like, and that you'll be keeping that in mind when you go to vote. And enough people do that. If there's a critical mass of people asking for the same thing, things change. So COVID is definitely changing the way that we're voting. There are, like we just said, there are fewer polling places. Your polling places may have changed. You may be able to mail in your ballot. You may not be able to. So again, do your research and then talk to your elected officials. They're paid and they are in a position where they are supposed to be listening to you. That is their job.
I also want to throw this out there. If you've ever voted before, odds are the people that are working your polling site are older, right? They're of that 60 and above demographic. And right now there's kind of a big drop off for poll workers right now because folks who are older aren't wanting to be out in public spaces. So if you feel so inclined, working as a poll worker for an election may be kind of a cool and fun thing that you can do. We'll be sure to get y'all more information on how you can do that. But definitely, if you're really interested in learning more, recommend going to your county's local elections office and talking to them about how you can be a polling site worker. But beyond that, if you're having to register to vote or having to vote in person, wear your face mask, have hand sanitizer, still think about all those social distancing protocols that you can take to make sure that you're safe when you're casting your ballot.
And then we have two questions that are pretty closely linked. Do you have to be a certain age to vote?
Yes, 18, right?
Yep. And then what can I do to help if I'm too young to vote? Who's got some ideas?
You could volunteer for campaigns, I think, and do like some grassroots campaigning where you walk around your neighborhood and let people know what candidates you're campaigning for, and educate them and let them know that let them know about the candidate that you're endorsing and why they should vote for them. But I think it's a really cool volunteer thing that you could find out where your candidate's office is in your town or city, and right?
Yeah, that's the perfect answer. I volunteered on my first political campaign when I was 11. There's no age limit to volunteering. I was basically just filing papers.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're too young to vote, there's still a ton you can do. All the things that Fransisco said are right on. If there's a candidate you're excited about, call up their office and see what they need.
Mm-hmm.
I'd also, of course, like to plug Voto Latino. Right now, you can text volunteer to our number 73179 to sign up to volunteer with us. We're doing a lot of digital organizing right now. We're sending out hundreds of thousands of texts to folks to remind them to request their mail-in ballot to have, to save them the trip of having to cast their ballot in person right now. We're also texting them to encourage folks to register their friends and family to vote. We're doing a lot in texting and digital organizing. Again, that number is 73179, and you can text the keyword volunteer, and we'll be sure to plug you into all of our digital organizing efforts at Voto Latino. I have another question for the group. Sly Cooley is the user. So can you run for office and not be able to vote?
I think you can. I've seen presidents cast their votes, so I don't see why not. Is that right?
No.
It's me.
So again, depends on your state. but it also depends on the reason that you can't vote. Depending on what it is that's making you ineligible for voting, could also make you ineligible for running for office. If running for office is something that you are interested in doing, then do the research in your city, county, state, and figure out what are the requirements and how you can get on the ballot. But the answer to that is it's a big depends. Let's see what other questions we have. Okay.
I think that may be all our questions for the day.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in today. I want to thank Fransisco from Nevermade and Vicky from Zumiez for joining us for our inaugural voting trivia. We really want you all to register and show up at the polls. Let's make sure that we do our part, that we educate ourselves, our peers, and demand for our voices to be heard. That's really, how we create change. Keep listening and keep learning.
And then something really exciting coming up at 5 p.m. Pacific time. Join Voto Latino and Rock the Vote for a virtual live concert to kick off Democracy Summer 2020. It's hosted by Logan Browning and Voto Latino co-founder Rosario Dawson. This concert will feature performances by Katy Perry, the Black Eyed Peas, Chuck D, Eve, Neo, and a bunch of other cool artists. So make sure you tune in live at democracysummer.org.
Also, don't forget that you can register to vote, learn more, and take action at zumiez.com/standup, and also at our website, votolatino.org. As I said a couple minutes ago, you can text the word volunteer to our number 73179 to learn about voting-related volunteer opportunities. Again, that's a volunteer to our number 73179. Get registered, use your voice, and go vote. Thank you guys so much for tuning in tonight.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.